It's time to talk about groups and how they're handled on the surface. Now, one of the things that I stressed before was that one of the first things that you'd be doing when you run sound and say you've loaded a scene, you want to make sure that each individual channel is labeled. In other words, that it has some sort of a label that you can read on this strip, and also that the system understands what type of channel that it is. And those are two separate things. First of all, regarding the labels, I request, at least for me, I'm going to do it this way. I'd like to keep the labels nice and short. Let's please not put the number of the channel in the label because the number already shows up anyway. And it's same for the iPad. It's redundant information. It doesn't need to be in the label. And also, if the label is nice and short, it will show up inside of this scribble strip in a way which is clearly legible. If, for example, like right now I have this one set up as a speech channel, if I changed it to one of the other things like backup vocals, then the words don't actually fit inside of here, and it'll just show up as, well, let me show you how these are set here. So for example, channel 9, if I select it, well, I can go up here and I hit this in the home screen, I hit that little gear that's up there, and then you can see in a box here that says channel 9. Well, I could go to channel 9 and it pulls up the keyboard and I could manually type in something, but I'm going to cancel that because I want to show you the effect of setting the type when the channel isn't named. Now, normally when this comes up, it'll just come up with source and it'll say whether it's analog, firewire, or network. These are all analog. If I choose channel type, and let's say I'm trying to set it up as a vocal mic, where are the vocal mics? Okay, oh, there it is, vocal. So let's say I choose backup vocals. Well, the cool thing about that is that the system now understands that it's a backup vocal, and it also gives it a label. But looking here, it looks like BAC-ALS, BAC ... which is not immediately obvious to me what that means. So I would go in here and just say, I don't know, something much shorter, you know, like just vocals. The system doesn't really need to know exactly whether it's a backup vocal or a lead vocal. That doesn't change anything. So really I could, for all the vocal mics, I could go in and just sort of select whichever one has a short name. I'm going to have a tendency to set these up on an iPad where I'm going to choose whichever icon I like best, and then I'll just go in and shorten the name. When it comes to vocal mics, my personal preference is to always put the name of the person, and if I just see a person's name, I understand that to mean that it's a vocal mic. So if I see Bill, then I understand that that's Bill's vocal mic. The instrument that he's playing is something else, it's piano. And like, for example, Philip over here was playing an acoustic guitar. Well, I understand that Philip is his vocal mic, and the acoustic guitar is his guitar. That's a kind of I guess a schema that I'm going to use. Okay, now the reason why all of those channel types are important to be set up, let me go back to the home screen now. If I choose this groups button, then you can see auto groups is lit up and it's creating a drums group, a guitars group, a keyboards group, and a vocals group. And this is super handy because once it's set up, I don't have to do any more work. I hit vocals and then it only shows me the vocal mics. And they're set to their own different relative levels. So basically a filter has been applied to all of the things which might show up on the bank, and now it's only showing those. You'll notice none of these faders are lit up right now. If I wanted to clear that filter, I would, let's say, choose A, and then it goes back to showing me channels 1 through 16. But going back to vocals, another thing that this vocal group, this automatically created group, does for me is I can use this FlexMaster to turn them all up or down. And you'll see that the effect it has is to move them all proportionally. If one of them was higher, it stays up higher. If one of them was lower, it stays lower relative to the others. So that's kind of cool. I can adjust them all and keep the relative mix the same. Yeah, one of the things that's the subject really of another video is that I have not created an actual group. These different mixes can be aux sends which go to our monitors on stage, or they can be subgroups. And so I have not actually created a separate output bus, which is this group. It's just kind of the system's way of presenting the information to me in a different form. But that's the subject of another video. One thing you might want to know about is the Group Masters button. You see how it's created drums, guitars, keyboards, and vocals. If I hit Masters, Group Masters, then it shows me the overall level of all of those. Drums, guitar, keyboards, and vocals. So once again, I can turn the vocals all the way down by choosing that. And right now the vocal group is selected, which is why that's doing that. Suppose I selected vocals. Then, oh no, hang on, vocals. Then I'm looking at this, and you can see that the Flex Master has gone back down here. If I put it back up to, let's say I'll put it up to -5. And if I go to Group Masters, you'll see that that vocals thing is at -5. That's probably more information and a little more confusing than you probably really wanted. But the important thing to get out of this is that you can adjust the overall level of an entire group using this. And if you want to, you can drill down into that by hitting the select button. So let's say I hit, I'm looking at guitars and I hit select. Then what it does is it shows me just the guitars and the acoustic guitar, electric, and bass. If I want to get back to the Group Masters, I have to hit Group Masters again. But that's a pretty handy thing. If you want to create a custom group, then what you would do is choose the Groups button. Well, actually, first of all, you probably want to make sure you're not looking at another group because that's confusing. So let's just choose Faders A so that we're just looking at channels 1 through 17. And now I go to the Groups button and see there's a little plus icon there. I can hit plus, and I want to make a new filter group, and I don't want it called New Filter Group. So I'll press on this, and I'll give it a much more interesting name like New Filter G, because I just don't feel like typing much. Okay, so now it's going to be called New Filter G, and it doesn't have any channels assigned to it. But let's say I choose channels 1, 5, 9, and 13. Then I hit Done. And so now that shows up as one of my groups along with all the automatically created groups. And it also shows up in the Group Masters. So now Group Masters, it has my new group, whatever name I gave it, plus all the automatically created ones. And I can touch this to kind of drill down into it, or I can hit select. If I hit select, then that shows me channels 1, 5, 9, and 13. Let me see if I can hit this up here and what that will do. No, that just clears the filter entirely, but then hitting it again shows me 1, 5, 9, and 13. So that's how the custom groups are created and how they work. If I want to delete it, then I edit it. So you hit edit first, and then there's a delete button, and I delete it and it's gone. I'm pretty sure that these groups are saved and recalled with the scene. So if you created a custom one, it would be saved with your scene.